You're watching and listening to the Electronic Intifada live stream. I'm Nora Barrows-Friedman here with my colleague Ali Abunimah. It's almost impossible for any of us to avoid contact with products made by Microsoft. It's not just familiar applications like Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, or the ubiquitous Windows operating system. You may not realize it, but when you withdraw money from an ATM, it's very likely that that machine is running a Microsoft application. When you book a ticket or interact with customer service on an airline, it's likely that this is processed on systems developed by the US-based software company. And your medical records might also be stored on systems created by Microsoft. And those are just a few ways that the US-based software firm is woven into everyday life. Microsoft's massive reach helped drive sales of $70 billion just in the first quarter of this year, and boosted profits by 18%. Much of this windfall is driven by the company's aggressive foray into AI, artificial intelligence. The company claims on its website that its mission is, quote, to help every person and organization develop and use AI in a way that serves the public good. Microsoft also claims that its goal is to protect people's fundamental rights and mitigate potential harm, to promote responsible business practices, to protect democracy, and advance fair and inclusive societies. However, last month, Microsoft held a celebration for its employees marking 50 years since the US-based software giant was founded. With so much success, what is not to celebrate? It didn't go exactly as planned. Let's take a look at this video from that event.
But Microsoft sells AI weapons to the Israeli military. 50,000 people have died, and Microsoft starts this genocide in our region.
Thank you for your protest. I hear you.
Your Syrian family know about this Mustafa.
I hear your protest. Thank you.
Shame on you. You are a war profiteer.
I hear you. Thank
Stop
you.
using AI for genocide, Mustafa. Stop using AI for genocide in our region. You have blood on your hands. All of Microsoft has blood on its hands. How dare you all celebrate when Microsoft is killing children? Shame on you all. Shame on you.
That was Microsoft employee Ibtihal Abu Saad protesting the company's sale of its AI and Azure Cloud computing technologies to the Israeli military, enabling the ongoing genocide. Abu Saad was not the only employee to protest at the event. Vaniya Agrawal also challenged the company's complicity in Israel's crimes, and let's watch that.
Shame on you all! You're all hypocrites. I'm a Microsoft worker, and I do not consent to my...
Thank you.
50,000 Palestinians in Gaza have been murdered with Microsoft technology.
Thank you.
How dare you? Shame on all of you for celebrating on their blood. Cut ties with Israel. No Azure for apartheid. Microsoft AI kills kids. Microsoft powers genocide.
And not surprisingly, both Abu Assad and Agrawal were fired after their protests made headlines and went viral on social media. Nor were they the first to be fired for such actions. In October, Abdul Muhammad, a researcher and data scientist, and Hossam Nasr, a software engineer, were fired after organizing a vigil outside Microsoft headquarters in Redmond, Washington, to protest the company's role in Israel's mass killing of Palestinians. Microsoft workers call their ongoing campaign against the company's complicity No Azure for Apartheid. And we're pleased to be joined now by former Microsoft employee Vaniya Agrawal and by a current employee, June. That's not her real name. For obvious reasons, we're hiding her real name. June and Vaniya, thank you so much. It's an honor to welcome you to the Electronic Intifada live stream today.
Thank you so much for having us. It's really a privilege to be here with both you, Nora, and Ali.
Well, thank you. Vaniya, in that powerful video of you protesting at the company celebration, you say 50,000 Palestinians have been murdered along with Microsoft technology. Can you explain in everyday terms how exactly the Israeli military is using Microsoft software? What role do Microsoft's products play in the mass slaughter we are seeing in Gaza every day?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Microsoft is key in aiding and abetting in Israel's genocide of the Palestinian people. Throughout this whole year, actually, Microsoft, as we were seeing, Microsoft has been celebrating its 50th year anniversary, always making a point to highlight their philanthropist impact. But every month, we continue to learn more and more about how Microsoft and its services have enabled and accelerated the genocide in Gaza. There have been multiple investigations by news outlets, including The Guardian, AP News, Dropsite News, and others. Microsoft knowingly provides Israel with technology, including artificial intelligence, that's deployed to facilitate grave human rights violations, war crimes, crimes against humanity, including apartheid, as well as genocide. This relationship between Microsoft and the IOF dates back decades. In 2002, Microsoft participated in the largest software deal in Israel at the time. And since then, Microsoft's partnerships with the Israeli apartheid regime have only expanded. In 2021, for instance, Microsoft signed a 3-year contract with the Israeli Ministry of Defense worth $133 million. And now in 2025, Microsoft has essentially a footprint in all major military infrastructures in Israel, with military service agreements that span across more than 600 individual subscriptions tied to different divisions, units, bases, and projects within the Israeli military. And these agreements mean that Microsoft provides the Israeli military with Azure Cloud, AI, and storage services, which the Israeli military uses to construct their automated weapons platform and essentially mass assassination factory, which automate and accelerate the crimes through systems like the Gospel, Lavender, and Where's Daddy. And these systems are responsible for developing kill lists and target banks, and they aid in the surveillance of and indiscriminate bombing of the Palestinian people. And what's notable is that we've seen the Israeli military's reliance on Microsoft's Azure Cloud technology and AI services has actually surged since its genocide of the Palestinians in Gaza. And according to usage data from March of just last year, the military's usage of Microsoft and OpenAI artificial intelligence actually spiked nearly 200 times higher than pre-October 2023. Even besides cloud and AI, Microsoft provides software, cloud support, consulting services to the Israeli military and government. They embed workers in the military units, and they provide staff and contractors to give specialized consulting and tech support to Israel. So Microsoft really forms the technological backbone of Israel's automated apartheid and genocide systems and is ultimately a digital weapons manufacturer at the end of the day. What we're witnessing is the first AI-powered genocide that literally runs on Microsoft Azure. And it's not just Microsoft, to be fair. It's Amazon, Google, and all these tech companies. They're all complicit. In this digital and AI age, cloud and AI have really become as deadly as bombs and bullets.
Mm. Thank you, Vaniya. We'll come back to more of that, but I want to turn to June right now. June, you're currently a worker at Microsoft, which is why, quite understandably, we're not showing your face or using your real name. But talk about the impact of these protests within the company from your perspective. How widely are the concerns that you're raising in this campaign, how widely are they shared? And what impact are you seeing from the actions that some of your colleagues and now fired colleagues have taken?
Thank you for asking. I think as far as the impact within the company, the campaign has been around for around a year, but after Vaniya's protest, Vaniya and Ibtihal's protests, we saw a surge in global interest and support for what the campaign is calling for, which is, of course, divestment and Israel off Azure. So as an individual, when I speak to the people around me and speak to fellow employees, I sense a general change that most people are against what's happening. And that's also reflected in the fact that people are flocking to the campaign from Microsoft offices all over the world. We're also seeing this in how, for example, as folks may know here already, Microsoft has become a priority target for the BDS campaign, and worldwide people are answering that call, even to the point of game developers who have written games for Xbox deciding to pull them from the store in order to heed the call to boycott Microsoft. So the data also within the company shows that they have these dashboards where they track sentiment around the company, and these dashboards show that the entire world is starting to understand that Microsoft's reputation for carrying out human rights is a false image, and understanding their complicity in the genocide that we're seeing. So it's I believe that we are at a turning point where this mass awareness and mass conviction that what is happening and what the company is participating in is wrong will enable us to make some change there.
Well, we also are joined by another current employee. We mentioned Hossam Nasr. Hossam, thank you so much for joining us. And if you could just tell us a little bit about why you also took the stand that you did and put your job on the line, and why it was important for you to do that, to do that act of protest.
Thank you so much for having me, and it's such an honor and a privilege to be here. To clarify, I no longer work for Microsoft. I was fired last October for organizing a visual with another organizer, Abdo, from the campaign. We organized a visual to honor the lives of the countless Palestinians who have been killed in Gaza with Microsoft technology. And I think for me, I always knew it. My activism and my organizing in general could very much lead to me losing my job, and I was always prepared for that as a consequence. And to answer your question, the reason is simply because we cannot afford to be silent in the face of the Holocaust of our time. It is simply unacceptable to have our labor be used to accelerate this genocide, to honestly have our tax dollars fund the bombs that are raining down on our brothers and sisters in Palestine and say nothing. Like, silence is complicity, and I could not bear the thought of having a drop of Palestinian blood on my hands. So it felt like, as somebody who has that privilege of, I work for Microsoft, I have that sort of platform. That's the barest of minimums one can do, honestly. It's not like we should be asking ourselves, why are we not doing more?
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Husam. And it's extraordinary that you and Vaniya and Ibtihal, and I know that you have another colleague who were fired for the stand you took. And after Vaniya and Ibtihal were fired, the No Azure for Apartheid campaign put out a statement that said, in part, while Microsoft tried to celebrate 50 years of war profiteering as a tech weapons company, we made it clear we will not write code that kills, and we will not celebrate while Microsoft has blood on its hands. It also states, quote, with full conviction, we can say that losing our jobs is a trivial price to pay for our principles, and we fight for a free Palestine from the river to the sea. I really have two questions, and this is for any of you, so you can take turns if you want to. But I mean, on the one hand, Microsoft is an enormous company. It's one of the world's richest companies. As we said, it's embedded in almost every aspect of daily life. You don't know that the ATMs or the parking lot payment machines are running Microsoft until they go on the blink and you see that Windows logo that tells you that they're running Microsoft. But I mean, why can't they just ignore you? They're a big, powerful company. Why should they care that a few employees decided to, throw themselves under the bus? I'm playing devil's advocate here, but I want you to really kind of push on that. And then I have another question. I want to ask you what you would say, as Vanya pointed out, Microsoft is a big player here, but it's not the only one. There are other enormous tech companies that are complicit in this genocide, and smaller ones too. What would you say to tech workers in other companies, not just Microsoft?
Vanya,
And
do you wanna kick it off?
Yeah, sure. I think they're really good questions. Maybe I can kind of take the second one of what we want to say to other Microsoft workers, and I'll let either June or Husam take the other one.
and
I
work
think
not just in Microsoft, and other tech workers generally in the
yes,
industry.
yes, definitely. I think just to echo what Husam has said, everybody that is able should be using their position, power, and privilege to speak up and hold those in power accountable. And like I mentioned, it's not just Microsoft, it's Amazon, it's Google, it's Palantir, it's all these big tech companies that we've been worshiping and idolizing for years, saying that they are at the forefront of innovation and helping make our future better. We need to reframe this idea that all tech is tech for good and for the evolution and continuation of innovation and humanity. It's clear. It's so clear now that all of these tech companies are really just weapons manufacturers under the hood. And as the targeted and weaponized famine continues to surge and escalate in Gaza, the time has passed for silence and inaction. Silence is complicity, inaction is complicity, and just sharing posts on social media, that's not enough. Commenting on a picture of another martyred journalist or another starving child is not enough. And when it comes to Microsoft and Google and Amazon and across the tech sector, we need to hold all of these companies accountable to their missions and their values. We need to demand that they cut ties that they end these bloody contracts. And we need to make it more expensive for them to continue these ties than to cut them, which means boycotting them, boycotting their products, not giving them a single dollar as they continue to profit from genocide of Palestinians, not give them a single ounce of our labor and our time and our energy. Demand that your workplaces divest from Israel, even outside the tech sector. Like, refuse to have your labor power apartheid and genocide. And do this through building community, organizing, and protesting. I'm part of the No Azure for Apartheid campaign, and we have so many amazing people that span across the whole spectrum of risk tolerance and risk levels, and people who are playing roles at each part of that spectrum, from taking actions like what Ibtihal and I did that are loud and disruptive and public, to more actions behind the scenes that the campaigns and grassroots movements really desperately need. There's a role truly for everybody to play in this movement. And we really have so much power in our numbers, and we have to do everything in our power to end this. And any sacrifice, like Hossam said, any sacrifice we can make is well worth the cause to see a free and liberated Palestine within our lifetime. And like Assam said, protecting Palestine is really protecting the world. So, huge call to all workers, tech workers, Microsoft workers, Amazon workers, even workers outside the tech sector, like, demand that all of these companies divest from Israel and don't give them your labor or your time.
Thank you for that. Hossam or June, do you want to also jump in?
Sure, I'd love to add on to that. As Vaniya said, I think the amazing thing is the power of the collective coming together to try to exert pressure on the company. Because, like, as much as Vaniya and Hossam and these individuals made an amazing disruptive protest that also came out of a sustained campaign of organizing and preparing for those moments. And I think that the evidence of why that is really powerful is also in the extent to which Microsoft has attempted to repress any type of organizing around this. So they have essentially rearranged a lot of their business operations entirely around trying to prevent the campaign from gaining more momentum. And I'll just give a couple of examples, but they have basically dismantled their internal social media platforms because discussions of Microsoft's complicity were getting too uncomfortable for them and they didn't want the word to spread. So they've locked those down. Next week, they're having one of their largest events for customers. It's called Microsoft Build. And one of their primary objectives for the event is to avoid a rally that the campaign is organizing at the event to hold both Microsoft and the people who are attending and potentially giving them money accountable. And it's really amazing because while it started as a small group of people, it is growing exponentially in size. And it's really evident in their response to us that they're very frightened of the impact that we're going to have on the company. Husam, do you want to speak to this more?
Yeah, I mean, I think, to answer your question of why can't they just ignore you? I mean, they have tried their very best to ignore us, and they have ignored us, and this is why it was our responsibility to make Palestine unavoidable and to make it so that they cannot ignore us, because our voices are louder than theirs, and they cannot just brush us away like they want us to do. This is why their statement is always like, well, there is proper channels or whatever to provide this feedback, because they do ignore these so-called proper channels, and that's what they want people to focus on. So our responsibility, and I think we've hopefully done a good job of that, is to make it so that they are forced to not ignore us, and that at the end of the day, I think our responsibility is to exact the highest possible cost on Microsoft and those tech companies and affect their bottom line. They are ultimately profit-seeking companies. They have zero material weight to Palestinian lives, or to any lives for that matter. It's a numbers game for them. So if we make it cost more than those contracts are worth, that's ultimately how we get them to divest. And lastly, to your second question on what to say to tech workers and in other companies or at Microsoft, we are at the point where the tech industry in general, big tech, is the military-industrial complex of this century. These giant tech companies are the Raytheons and the Lockheed Martins and the Boeings of our world, that are just as essential to the destruction in Gaza as those physical sort of munition companies. So make your decision accordingly. And in my opinion, if you work for at least some of these like really big tech companies, you are complicit, and you will, history will remember you as such if you're not at the very least organizing, if you're not speaking up about Palestine, if you're not doing something about it. It is not on. I want to push on this narrative that some people have, that Vaniya and myself and whatever, we were like so brave to do this. Like, no, we were not. That's not how history is going to remember us. History will remember us as like having done the absolute bare minimum in the face of the Holocaust, and everyone else is coward. It's not that we are brave. So.
Mm-hmm. That's a really good point. Thank you. And as we wrap up, I mean, how can people, the general public, people in activist communities, support people like June, current Microsoft workers who are putting their livelihoods and possibly their careers on the line to do the bare minimum to protest this genocide. What actions are you calling on the
And
general
just
public to
I,
take? Yeah.
and I don't mean to interrupt you, Nora, but
Yeah.
I also want to push back a little bit, because in this society, the bare minimum has become a lot,
Yes.
because people have been so depoliticized and so bullied and intimidated into silence that that actually I want to say it does take. I want to tell you that what you did is courageous and it is extraordinary, but we don't want it to be rare. We want more
Right.
people to be courageous and extraordinary the way you were. So I understand what you're saying, but I also want to thank you and acknowledge that you have done something that so many other people haven't done, and that does take courage. I'm sorry,
Agreed.
Nora.
No. It's a really good point. Yeah, I mean, like how can people support you and learn more about the campaign and encourage their, coworkers and colleagues to take similar stances wherever they're employed?
I'm happy to start with that. Yeah, I think, Ali, to your point, like I recognize my privilege and position being a US citizen, being able to take a stand like this that's so loud and public, and not really putting much beyond my own life on the line. Like not everybody can do this without putting so much on the line with their families, their homes, people that they support. It is scary times, but sort of like I mentioned, there are ways to be involved and take action without putting yourself in the line of fire if you're not able to take that risk. Our protest was a very coordinated and planned effort. That protest that you saw on April 4th wouldn't have happened without all of the folks working behind the scenes that made it happen. And as I mentioned, grassroots movements especially have such a variety of needs and roles that assume different levels of risks. So I would really say the way to support is to organize and build your community and figure out what you are able to do and do it, and take action however you can. And it's really important to remember that we do outnumber them and we have so much power in our collective. Even just within Microsoft, the workers far outnumber the CEOs, and there's so much power in that. So for our campaign specifically, I would really urge everyone, get involved however you can, answer the BDS call, boycott Microsoft, pressure Microsoft. We have petitions for the No Azure Apartheid campaign that folks can sign to hold Microsoft accountable and pressure them into answering our demands to disclose, divest, call for a ceasefire, and protect their employees who speak out. And for those who are willing to assume a little more risk, make those demands of these workplaces. Refuse to have your labor power apartheid and genocide. And just remember that no action is small. In this movement, the smallest things, from making a sandwich for mutual aid or making a sign, that is a form of resistance. And yeah, if Husam or June want to add anything else, I'll pass it over to them.
Thank you, Vaniya. Absolutely agree with all of those things. If you are able to sign our petitions, that's really helpful. If you're able to support the campaign by following us on social media, we'd love that. If you can push people who either buy Microsoft products or maybe work at Microsoft, that is always helpful. If you happen to be in the Seattle area and can join us at our rally to physically confront Microsoft, we would love to have you. And you can find details about that on our social media. And one more thing is that I think a more general call that we've been talking about, not to just workers at Microsoft, but to workers at other companies and just people everywhere, is that yeah, if you can organize to take collective action, now is the time. And I want to emphasize that I know I'm in a position of privilege as well, where I'm hiding my face and name now, not because I'm afraid to get fired, but because I'm saving it for the right moment. And I think that, as we've said so many times, there's power in taking action together, and it's not just about doing the right things or going through what they tell us are the proper channels, that are the channels that enable them to ignore what we're doing. I think, yeah, it's the best thing that we can do for the movement is to figure out ways to escalate beyond what they want us to do.
Thank you. I love that. Waiting for the right moment. Absolutely. Husam, did you want to close us out?
Yeah, I mean, I think that generally, I think this is like the points that Vanya and June have brought up have been really important. I think that ultimately the message I want to send is the genocide in Gaza has reached extremely urgent levels. Like when we launched this campaign a year ago, it felt extremely urgent, and it felt like it's something that we must, put everything on the line for. And now a year later, it feels even more urgent, and that was inconceivable a year ago. The deliberate starvation campaign is ongoing and accelerating. Dozens have already died of starvation that we're aware of. Israel has announced officially plans to completely take over Gaza and exterminate the remaining population and lead the rest out of Gaza. I guess my message would be like, if a lot of people think that we need to play the long game and sort of like, be strategic and be sort of cunning and wise, and it's not, we shouldn't be very loud right now. We should like wait until we have more power and more privilege and more voice, and this is when we can really make an impactful difference. And I want to really challenge that. Like, if anybody is holding on to any privilege, I realize my privilege was my job, because I, thankfully I don't have kids I have to support. I was not, supporting my family financially. I was in a financial position that allowed me to, be without a job for a few months, and that is a privilege that I recognize so many people don't have. But if anybody in general is holding on to any privilege, whether that is citizenship right now is a huge privilege, a job, or even a voice or anything like that, and they're thinking, I just need to hold on to this for the long game, for like the big picture. I'm going to ask, like, if not now, then when? If it's not going to be this genocide, if it's not going to be when Palestinians are being starved and babies are being decapitated, and Israel has become the #1 leading cause of death for children worldwide. If it's not going to be that, then what is it going to be?
Really well said. Thank you so much, Hossam, Nasr, and Vanya Agrawal, former Microsoft workers, and of course, June, a current Microsoft worker. And again, the social media. Yeah.
There's the at least 2 ways. You probably have more
Yeah.
social media accounts. We encourage everyone to follow and find out what actions you're taking, as well as how they can participate if they want to. So there is your, I think that's your account on Twitter X, no AZ for apartheid, no AZ number 4 apartheid. And you also have the same handle on Instagram. And if people just search for no Azure for apartheid, using different search engines, maybe, then they will find you.
Amazing. Thank you all so much for doing this work and building this campaign and speaking out and encouraging everyone else to do so. And we hope to have you back on the program when the campaign has completed its mission. So thank you so much for being with us today on the Electronic Intifada live stream.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much for having us. It's an honor.
Thank you.